Okay, thank you. So, I'll introduce our guest speaker today. We welcome Dr. Elvis Imafidan. He's a lecturer at the Department of Religion and Philosophy, SWAS University of London. Prior to this time, he has been lecturing in the university in Nigeria, not just a university. He has also lectured in as part-time too in various other institutions, specifically in the Department of Philosophy. So he has published several books, and why we're having him today is because he has published with great companies and known, renowned publishers such as Routledge, Springer, and several others. And I know we're all familiar with some of his publications, but the outstanding ones like the Handbook of African Philosophy of Difference, The Ethics of Subjectivity, which he gave me a chapter there too, and that's still my first publication and still expected publication. Thanks for that. And then the question on the rationality of African traditional thought, uh, on ontologized ethics. So these are books among several others that he has published. And we are honored to have you today. I'm Augustine Fariola, Department of English Literature, work in digital humanities, or other way called philosophy of technology at the department at the University of Birmingham. I'm a member of the team of African Researchers Network, and I'm so sure that other members of the team will introduce themselves while Winner takes over the event as our Oga. Thank you very much.
Wait, Oga. Anyway, I'm just moderating for today. But thank you very much for Austin. My name is Winner. Also a member of the team here at African Researchers Network. I'm a PhD researcher in civil engineering, dealing mainly with interpreting data from civil engineering equipment that are used in construction and mainly for observation of assets that are buried in the ground. And so that's mainly where my research area is. So I'll just pass to Cassandra for introducing.
Okay, I'm Mukile. I'm also PhD at Birmingham, and my research is in um, I'm specializing, in translation studies. So I'm looking at African phone literature translated into Russian. And yeah, that's about me. And really pleased to meet you today. Thanks so much.
Thank you all. I'm really pleased to meet all of you, and I really feel honored that Austin invited me to. I often don't see myself as very qualified, but I feel that from the few years of experience I've had with publishing, I could say one or two things that will be helpful in the long run. Yeah, I've 8 years down the line. I've had 5 books, 2 authored and 3 edited, and 2 on the way, one with Peter Lang and one with Springer as well. So at the end of 2021, I'm looking at 7 books altogether, and hopefully more to come, hopefully. So Austin sent me some set of questions which I thought were very nice in terms of covering the topic, and I'll try to quickly do that before 3. I have another meeting by 3. But I wanted to start by saying publishing begins from the mind. Unfortunately, we are all, particularly we, myself and Austin, he will understand my experience in Nigeria. We all have these stereotypes in publishing, or stereotypical ideas about publishing from wherever we come from, even here in the UK, because first you have the impression that publishing must be done by a well-established scholar. And then they give you a definition of a well-established scholar. Who is a well-established scholar? Somebody who has a professorship. There was a time when when I just started working on ethics of subjectivity, which Austin has a paper in. before I started, I was part of some of these LinkedIn groups. So I sent, like one morning, like I just sent a very, like a paragraph, short description of an idea I had in mind, which is what I'll come to, what leads to publishing. Something that I felt has been ignored in the discussion of ethics in modern philosophy. So, and I said, I would like to do an edited book on this. And one of the response was, you can't invite us to contribute to an edited book, because an editor for an edited book needs to be a think tank, you know, an established, reputable, notable scholar in the field and all of that, you know. I was also happy that the next 5-6 responses to that were very critical, like, why will you say that? If somebody has an idea, can the person develop it? You know, so I didn't really have to say much. So I think, first of all, you have to overcome that stereotype of publishing that tells you, well, you see, you are not qualified to talk on this subject. How can you not be qualified to talk about something in your mind? You know, your own thoughts that you are, that is eating you up, that, man, this thing is missing, or this thing is not part of existing literature. I have to push this thing out. And then you are scared because where they will say, I'm not grown enough to do this. You know, I think that's the first hurdle we must all pass if we really want to publish. And that leads to the second thing, what really leads to publishing? The idea. You already have, you obviously see something that is missing. You know, there's a missing link, there's a problem that, even though it has been addressed, have not been addressed from a particular angle, which you wish to, because no publisher will accept something that has been overflogged, you know. So it has to be something, that unique thing can be so small, but it's nowhere. So basically you are bringing it up. So that's why you could write a 20-page article for a journal. The only thing original inside is a paragraph. Every other thing is literature review, what A said this, B said that. But this is one thing that has not been said. Once you use one sentence to represent that thing that has not been said in your abstract, you've already captured whosoever is reviewing, because obviously that thing is missing. And of course, nobody expects you to just say what's that original thing. People expect you to start by saying what has been said, which can take 10 pages. What has been ignored, and then this is what should have been said, which could just be a page out of 25 pages. So there must be that thing you are bringing on board. There must be that thing you are bringing on board. Once you can locate that thing in civil engineering, in translation, in whatever discipline, do not let any stereotypical ideas about publishing stop you from, because ideas, they are like flowers, they die. Either they die because you did not pursue it, or before you think of it. You know, ideas are, they are mental things, of course. So if you don't think of it, someone else will. So you say, well, I'll do it 5 years time, 2 years time, you see a book, but this is the idea I had, you know, but it's out there already. It's no longer new. It's no longer your idea. You can't lay claim to being the owner of an idea without documenting it. That's the struggle that we African philosophers continue to grapple with today, that we have a lot of African philosophy, but they were not documented. And we are struggling so hard to prove that oral philosophy works as well as written philosophy. And the West are saying, well, look at our own. We wrote our own down. Where's your own? I would say, well, it was handed to us orally. It's a fight, it's a struggle, it remains a struggle. And I taught African philosophy on Wednesday. Is a fight, you know. But the best way to win that fight, at least in our current time, is if you have an idea, don't waste time, pursue it, you know. And that leads to the first question Austin sent to me. Where do you publish? What kind of book proposals are accepted by reputable presses or publishing houses? And that leads to an even more important question. What are reputable presses? But now there are so many publishing houses. There are so many. How do you distinguish the good ones from the bad ones, so that you don't publish a book and it kills your career, you know. And the good presses, the reputable ones, real academic press, they are very many. We can hear of Routledge, for instance, or Springer, Palgrave Macmillan, which are the popular, which we'll say where they are popular. But many university press are very rigorous and good. University of Oxford, which is one of the best publishing house, and SUNY, State University of New York Press. There are so many. Most universities, if you go online and say university presses, there are more than 1,000 of them. And many of them here in the UK, in Europe, in US are very rigorous. So what are some key things you can use to identify a good publishing house? First, money matter. Once a publishing house starts telling you, before you even start, I will talk of these two factors because I think they are key. Before you even start telling them your idea, this is how much you will pay. You pay this for copy editing. You pay this for this one. Run, just run away. Because any good publishing house, the simple truth is this: they know their stuff. They know that what is coming out of them is going to be good. And they know that because they are good publishing houses, libraries are already subscribed to them. They don't need your money to publish, because the moment your book is coming out, libraries in UK, in US, all over the world are picking their copies for their libraries, either e-copies or hard copies. And that's where they make their money from, not from the 1 or 2 copies we buy from Amazon. So before a book is out, about 150 copies are already sold. It covers their production and whatever. So they don't need your money to publish it, because they know they are good presses, they are good publishing houses, and that there are libraries already on ground to buy them. What else how else can you explain, for instance, that my handbook sells for about 150 pounds? How much do I earn that I will buy a book of 150 pounds? Basically, I'm not the one buying it. Is a university library buying it, you know? University libraries and all of that. They are the ones buying these books. So good publishing houses know that there are those, they have already made buyers there. Bad publishing house know that they don't. So basically you pay, you are the one that will pay for it. And then they leave you at the mercy of, well, maybe people will buy it, people will not buy it. So you end up maybe paying 2,000 pounds for a book, and you can sell up to 500 pounds. You run at a loss. And I don't think any author should run at a loss, because in the first place, there's really not much money in publishing. What you gain from publishing is more of kind than cash. Well, we'll get to that shortly. The second thing you watch out for is copy editing. As an author, no matter how scholarly I am, there's no written paper that is so neat that can publish without any correction. Just 2 months ago, I got so angry because I don't know if I'll be able to put that article in my CV, because I sent an article to the Caribbean Journal of Philosophy, which I often see as a very reputable journal. They've been there for quite at least about 2 decades. And I was expecting responses on, this is where you should correct, this is where you should revise, and all of that. And a friend of mine in Nigeria sent me a WhatsApp sometime a month or so ago. Hey, congratulations, I saw your paper in Caribbean Journal. I said, what? How did it get published? I didn't read it. So it was like sending a first draft, and the first draft got published. So what were the corrections? No revisit here, no language change, nothing. And I don't think any work gets so perfect without having 2 reviewers go through it, go through publishing, copy editing, machines, and all of that, to at least make it neater. All good publishing houses do serious copy editing. Sometimes when they bring my book back to me, I'll be wondering, how did these mistakes happen? The red biros are so happen. But it goes to show you the tediousness, the commitment to get out something very neat, Lambert in Germany, if you submit a book today, next month is out with all the errors that you submitted with it. You know, there's no copy editing. You know, so a publishing house can be free, quite all right, but does not do any structuring, any copy editing. So it doesn't go out for review. A publishing house can do copy editing, but put all the bill on you. And the publishing house, the worst are those that do both. No copy editing and you pay. So these are danger signs for publishing. So when you are sending to a publisher, it mustn't be Routledge, which we all know is good. It could be University of California Press. It could be University of North Carolina Press, you know. Watch out for those things. Will your work, and the third thing is review, will your work be sent out for peer review? That's one. Will your work be copy edited? Of course, you are free to ask via mail. And will you be paying for the publication? If the answers are to those three questions are right, you are already on the right track to bringing out a book that any university library will be happy to buy. There are some press in UK, for instance, for Cambridge Scholars, for instance, you know, how many of their books are in UK libraries? Because you are telling you will not pay a dime. Then when your book has advanced, it gets to a time for copy editing, which is often the last thing before production. They tell you, well, we just saw so many errors in your work. You pay £1,500 for copy editing. So you pay for the copy editing. So why don't I just do self-publishing?
Publish.
So, and then you tell them, well, I will pay someone myself. I'm saying this from an experience of a friend. I'll pay someone myself to do copy editing in Nigeria, which means I can do it for like £300 in Nigeria. You do it, you send it back to them because you've not paid them. They tell you, no, we still found error on page 2, error on page 50, you know. So let us do it until you get fed up and then pay them. However, exception to that is that there are some very good presses. They do publishing, they do copy editing, but they will still ask you to pay for some copies. One is Peter Lang. Peter Lang is a good press. I told the editor at the time when he invited me to submit a manuscript that I still don't know why they collect €1,000 for 50 copies or so, which they will send to you, of course. You are forcing people to buy the book. What if I don't have the money to buy it? So there are some few exceptions, which if you have the money to pay, fine. You pay Peter Lang, you get your copies. So you are not paying for publishing, you are paying for your copies per se. I think that's a bit forcing one's hand, you know. So yeah, for the second thing, Austin sent, yeah, the journey is like from draft to getting published. Yeah, for an authored book, a book you want to author yourself or co-author, what you send initially to a publisher is just about 4-page or so. So 4-page, 5-page, thereabout, with your CV. That 4-page comes with these key things. The title of the work you are proposing, your name, the summary, you know, of what it's about, the target audience. Who are you targeting? Is it postgraduate students, scholars, undergraduate students? Is it which market are you targeting? Is it African market, or is it about African philosophy, African humanities? Is it about Europe? Is it about America? You know, what is your unique selling point? Basically, what makes your own idea different from the same thing that has been said? What is the competition? Some of these things are just two lines, you know. What is the competition? Basically, for instance, when I'm recently working on Handbook of African Philosophy, there are about 10 handbooks of African philosophy. There's Pegrave Handbook of African Philosophy. There's one other one. So what makes mine different? Springer had to really argue that with me. So I had to add a subtitle central and emerging subject areas, and then explained how that was different from maybe the Palgrave Handbook. So I start by mentioning competitors, books that are similar, but saying how this is different, right? Yeah. Yeah, you can have a sample. Austin, I said I will send you mine. Sorry, it's just distraction, but I'll still send them. I'll send them definitely. So once you're able to have those things out, then you have outline, like a structure. Chapter 1 is about this, chapter 2 is about this, like that. And then you send it with your CV, then they will reply you and tell you to send, they'll send that out for review. Once they have one or two persons say, well, this seems like a good idea, they tell you to start working on your full draft, and you and the press will agree on a deadline. So sometimes when I have an idea, I prefer to start with these 4 pages because there's never time. But the moment you are tied to a contract, you signed a contract that for this idea you said you wanted to develop, you have to submit it by October 2021. You just have to work to get there. But if you don't tie yourself to a contract, 3 years, you are still there trying to bring this and this because there's nothing really pushing you. So by the time the publisher is writing to you, where we hope we'll get it so and so time, then you miss the deadline. Say, yeah, we were hoping we'll get it. Can you make sure you will get it so and so time? You have something pressurizing you to finish the manuscript because there's no perfect manuscript. You finish it, and then it takes almost 6 months or so to go through process of reviewing, production, and all of that. So it's always good to start from somewhere, right? Yeah. So, but if it is for an edited book, it may be a bit lengthy, maybe too lengthy, because you are doing the same thing, but this time you will have to provide the chapters and then the authors writing each chapter. And then at the end, give a list of contributors. So you say the name of somebody writing chapter 1, and then a brief bio from so-and-so university, blah, 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 blah. So that will make it a little bit longer, but it's almost the same thing, So when I was editing my first book I started editing in 2011. I was doing my PhD then, and it got published 2 years after at Lexington Books in the US. That's that idea in Nigeria. I know I approached some professors, and I'm working on, because I felt that it was titled Ontologized Ethics. I felt that in the history of philosophy, there was always a separation of the concern with reality or being, separating it from the concern with morality or ethics, right? And I was saying that it's not really separated. I just felt it's a simple thing to know that the beliefs you hold about life affects how you behave. If you're a Christian, it affects how you behave. If you're a Muslim, it affects it. So why it's our notion of being or reality affects our attitude. So, and then traced it back in history, so that it has been an ongoing argument, but it has never been from an African perspective. So I did Ontologized Ethics, New Essays in African Metaethics. And I remember I approached some professors, and some laughed at me, said, what are you, why are you editing a book and stuff like that, But there's really no good time to start. You can start as long as you have the idea. The only thing is that if you are writing as a PhD student, if you wish to edit a book as a PhD student, most publishing house would want you to have a co-editor who is a senior colleague. And they let you choose whosoever you want. You may have your supervisor, you may have someone you admire in that field, which you can write to. And so that first book, because I didn't have a PhD, I approached 2 professors that I've heard about in the US, Barry Harling. And Barry Harling had some issues with health. No, not health. He just lost someone, the mourning and all of that. And directed me to John Bewaji, who was in the university in Jamaica then. And that he agreed to do it. Bewaji is also a very established Yoruba professor in philosophy. So And so we co-edited it, but it was still my work. That has to stand out, that it's your idea. So you still remain the editor, while such a senior colleague only co-edit. You don't give your editing rights to anybody because it's your idea. So it's clear that the co-editor is simply assisting, not that it's his own idea, because tomorrow, the basis why you'll be invited to a conference is because of that idea. You know, you discuss this idea, so come and tell us more about it. So if it was Bewaji first, then Imafidon, then Bewaji will be invited instead of me. And he may not be able to give the details you will be able to give because it's your idea actually, you know, because I had finished the manuscript and just sent it to him for him to do a second reading, you know, and then he made corrections here and there, and that's how he became a co-editor. So, but in Nigeria, you have this pressure of I'm your senior, so how can I be your co-editor? I should be the editor. You're a small boy. You're the co-editor. You know, well, we have to go beyond that. I mean, this is academia. We need to respect people's ideas and give them the opportunity to grow. You know, there's too much ageism in academics. You know. The next question was about financial remuneration. Yeah, I said I'll talk about this a bit later, and that's now. Well, publishing a book is not too much about what you gain from it in terms of finance, in terms of funds or money. There's really nothing much for, in fact, publishing a book reminds me of the old long saying of the teacher's reward is in heaven. But actually you get something little out of it. But what you really get out of publishing is in kind, in terms of the reputation you build as a scholar, as a respected scholar within that field. I am here in the UK today, not because I'm better than many others. It's because my published works got seen, you know, beyond my space. I was able to publish in the UK, in Switzerland, in US. And so my works were already in my university library before I got here. And so that is something you gain, which money can't really buy for you, you know. So when I applied for a position at SOAS, I got it because my work can speak for me, you know. But if I did not build that reputation, academic reputation over time, I would not even qualify to apply, basically. My CV will not be rich enough. So basically what you enjoy, the very first thing is that academic reputation, that your voice is part of the discourse in an international sense. People can, somebody wanted to read something about translation, somebody can, well, this guy said something, you know, something about civil engineering, this guy said something, and you are not there, nobody is seeing you, but your name is there, you know. And so when you then apply to attend a conference for a job, it just gets you there, which is why I'm also very disappointed at our seniors who keep telling us to wait, it's not yet time. Wait, I mean, you're a small boy. How do you then build your reputation and then get those positions that you really want to get if you don't start now? So, but of course, there's also the financial remuneration. But what happens is this: most publishing houses will tell you that, well, we'll publish it, we'll pay for everything, your books will be out, nice print in the market and everything. But this is how it goes. So and so percent is for publication, so and so percent is for the press, the publisher, and so percent, which is always small, maybe about 5% or so percent of every copy sold is for you. When you are doing your first publication, no matter how bad the contract is, accept it, just get your name out there. Don't bother too much about what you will get in terms of funds out of it, but your work is out there, people are buying it, it's being read in libraries and all of that. From the second and third, you start negotiating, because the very first book I did, they told me until the sale of the 400 copies, I won't get anything. I knew that that book may not sell to 400 copies because PDF copies flies all over the place, you know. I knew I would not get a dime. Until today, I didn't get a dime out of that thing. But it was the book that launched me into the international academic market, kind of. So from the next book, the guy said from the first 100 copies, I said, nah, from the very first copy, from the very first copy. And they said, okay, fine, we'll do it that way, you know. But what some publishers now do, like Springer, for instance, Springer would pay you off and say, well, because sometimes that 5% in a year, you may not get anything more than 200 pounds, you know. So Springer will tell you, well, instead of waiting that, let me give you 500 pounds remuneration and you go your way, basically. Let me give you 1,000 pounds for publishing and you go your way. But what we do now is we collect that money, but still tell you that, well, that means that we will not disturb you until the 100 copies is sold. From the 101 copy, you still have to start giving us back something, you know. So you see, it's meager compared to the effort you put in. That's why I keep saying the reward is not in the money, it's in the reputation that you build. Because it gets to that point where you build that reputation in that your original field, and somebody invites you for a conference and give you that same 1,000 pounds that you got for a book contract, you know. In August last year, I had a 2 hours lecture with University of Gothenburg on
Hello.
so I was invited to give the lecture. I recorded it, pre-recorded it in Zoom, sent the link to them. They watched it. And then 2 weeks after, we had an interactive section. It was meant for their PhD nursing students, about 20 of them. And they got to invite me for that because of my book on albinism that was released and a few other papers on bioethics. But for the book of albinism, I don't know, I can't, it's so meager that I don't even remember what I got from it. But for that talk alone, I got about 1,000 pounds for talking for 2 hours. So basically, it's to build the reputation to be able to get other things. Basically, not that you would immediately get 5,000 pounds from writing a book, you know. Yeah. And then in an edited book, how do you have that synergy and make it one whole? Yeah, that's why editing a book is one big headache, you know, because you are dealing with all sorts of persons with different views, different ideas. But as the editor, your number one goal is synthesizing, bringing together, making a flow, so that when the chapters are read, there's no confusion or disconnections. So that is why, as an editor, I may receive, well, the first thing as an editor you do, that same 4 or 5 pages you are sending out to a publishing house, you restructure it to make a 2-page call for paper, basically saying this has been the history of this topic, this is what has been missing. Now I'm looking for ideas to fill up this missing gap. I personally love edited books because you are able to hear different perspectives on that same thing that you feel is missing. But it's a real hectic job because, so when you send that call for papers out, disseminate it as much as you can. Use all the mailing lists you are aware of in different areas in South Africa, in Europe. Let it go wide, because at the long run, what you aim as an editor is that, well, I'll find 30 people who are interested. But actually, I'm looking for 15 chapters, because the whole year or 2 years of editing, you'll be sieving to attain that synthesis of the body. So you actually find, because what you are requesting for in the call for paper is a summary of what someone says he would like to contribute. Provide a summary and your affiliation and all of that. So you get maybe 30 or 40. At that instance, you know that these 10 are not good. So basically you start pulling them off. Then you respond to 30 or 25 and say, well, I like your idea, please send in your full chapters. You just before I started this one, this meeting, I just got a mail from someone who has been chasing me since October deadline passed for a particular chapter. And for him, that I feel so badly because I had just relocated to the UK with family, homeschooling, this and all of that. I just told him before the class that I feel so embarrassed because I often don't disappoint that way. But he needs that chapter. So you keep, I feel for him because I've edited, you know. So you keep chasing. So out of that 25, 10 will just come so nicely. Another 5 you chase, they come. 5 you will never see again till that book is out. You know, they just disappear. You send them, they just, because responsibilities. And so always aim to have more than you need. Always aim to have more than you need because you are not really going to get all that you have at the end of the day. So wish for more and then start streamlining. And then when the chapters come in, if out of that 25, you now finally have 20, when you now realize that a short half-page abstract is different from a 20-page length work. So you start seeing that some persons are bad, very bad writers, and you start saying, well, it's not tidy enough, I have to push it out. So you start selecting out of that 20, and then you end up with maybe 13 or 15. That is what now goes to press. And if you don't do that, if you don't do that rigorous scrutiny to have that sentences, if it gets to the publisher, they will reject it. But if you've done that homework, once it gets to the publisher, it goes through the first review stage. You say, well, they said, make this adjustment, move chapter 2 to 8, move 8 back to 2, and blah, 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 blah. And then it goes for copy editing. They send it back, then starts production. 2 years or thereabout, your edited book is out, which is why it's good to start early. You know, so once you have an idea, an edited book is easy to start because you just need to draft the idea in a page or two and then spread the word, let people say their mind. Yours is to introduce the volume, write a chapter that really captures your point and let other people have a say. So it's quite easy to start up. And this is the best time for me. That's how I started during that PhD program. You know, you can build on that key point in your thesis already, you know, and start using it to bring like minds together. There are different scholars within your field that you already respect. One thing that has never stopped me is this. You don't say, well, he's so high up there, I have read all his books. That guy is just another person who might just be cooking in the kitchen. Send him a mail. Don't ever feel scared that he's too big to be mailed. Every day I go online, I get the emails of some of the most fantastic philosophers, and I mail them, and more than half would respond. They will respond in such a humble and nice way, and you'll be so amazed. What was holding me back from it is all these ideas we already have about ageism, about class difference, and we live by them, unfortunately. Since I came into SOAS, my department already sees certain differences in terms of research, which is why they've just put me in charge of research, because in a normal class, I would write out the readings for the week. As I'm reading them to prepare, I was like, man, it would be nice if is this person still alive? It would be nice if he could come to class. I go online. He's alive. He's in one university in the US. I'll go to his profile. I'll copy his email. I'll paste it. I'll send a very respectful email. So-and-so, teaching so-and-so, we are using your book for reading this week. I'm sure the student will be so excited to meet you. I will be excited to meet you. And now we've had 4, you know, four professors who I've never met anywhere coming to one or other of our class to speak to the student. And I see how much effect it has on the students in terms of the positive effect it has, you know. And it also have effect on me because I don't know these persons, you know, and it makes me realize that, you see, within now 2 years, I may have had like 15 in class, which would mean that I can as well start an edited book from there. I can contact these persons again. So my point is, there's no limit to who you can reach out to. There's no limit. The limits are just imaginary. You can reach out to anyone and say, I need you. Just be respectful in your email. That's all. Respectful in your approach. It's just a normal norm of life. We should respect each other. So show that respect in your email. Make the person feel appreciated for what he has done or what she has done, and say you need his or her contribution. The last thing is intermediary between intended authors and publishing firms. How can networking? Well, there's really no intermediary. It's those intermediary are sort of imaginary, as I said. You just have to note that these are good publishers. This is the one I want to pursue. Basically, also know that in sending out a proposal to a publisher, select like 3 or 4 and keep them. Send out to 2 at once, because the truth is that one may not accept, one may accept. Some will tell you, I've sent a proposal to University of Oxford, and they said, although it is good, but it's not in their area. They don't have a commissioning editor that will handle it fine. So I sent it elsewhere. Routledge accepted it. And then the Handbook of African Philosophy of Difference, I sent it to Springer and Routledge. Routledge response came first. Normally it takes 6 to 8 weeks. Came first, and then Springer's own came second. Both were positive. So I had to weigh which one I would prefer. I also spoke to a friend, a professor in Johannesburg, who is very good, who has published a lot. I sent the 2 responses to him and said, what do you think? He said, well, Springer has more online presence. When you publish in Springer, your work flies very fast than Routledge. That was one advantage over the other. And then a few other things I needed to consider. I wrote Routledge and told them, I'm sorry, I can't, for so and so reason, I just looked for some excuses. I can't continue with the project with you. And then I chose Springer. So it's good to have options so that you don't wait 8 weeks or 12 weeks and then you send to one and it's rejected. You wait another 8 weeks for another one to respond. Send to 2 or 3. If all of them comes positive, is your choice. You pick one. You are not yet under any contract at that time. So I hope I've been able to say some things within this.
You have said many things. I think that the recording is a result.
Academics, African academics in the diaspora. It could be about, there's a drive, a connected drive that is making you pick this theme, So you have the right then to come together and write these persons who have delivered talk that, well, as a network, we want to bring these ideas together so that it goes more to a wider audience, right? We'll be doing an edited collection. The person you invited does not have the right to say, I must be part of the editor. No, he's a contributor to the discourse, right? So you guys are the ones that are editing. So basically you are politely and respectfully telling them, please develop your presentation into a paper, so-and-so length, 4,000 words, so-and-so, and then send it back to us, please, within so time. Once you see that the response is going to be positive, they are sending you mail that way, yes, I'll do that, yes, I'll do that. Start drafting a proposal to a publisher. And in the proposal, you are writing the title, the name of the editor or editors, and you list them out. If it's the 3 of you, then you are the 3 editors. And basically, it is the reason why you are the ones that will write the introduction to the volume, because you understand the basis on which you are saying this is a topic we are going to do this week. This is the one we'll do next month. Because you have that synergy in your mind about why these topics are interconnected. The persons you are inviting don't have it.
Don't have
And
it.
so no one can say, well, because I presented this week, well, I should be part of the editing team. You can on your own decide that, well, this man should be part of it, but it's your decision to make, basically. It's your decision. And I told you some time ago, if you keep at this, in the next 3 years, you will not know what you started, this network,
Mm.
You would have started something so good that you start being able to reach out for funds for a workshop, for a conference, from which more edited books can come out. That's how it starts. 5 years down the line, you're thinking of starting an online journal, maybe once a year publication where people can share ideas, So you need to sit down and be very clear about the broad theme that everything fits into, And if you have a book out of that in the next 1-2 years, you've already established yourself.
Thank you very much for the. Yeah, go on.
I think Kasungo wants to say something, or has it gone? Because he
He's
needs to
here.
he needs to quickly respond.
Yeah.
So that's why.